Doing keto, but you're still not losing weight? How do you know that you're doing everything correctly? By tracking. What gets measured gets improved. I'm talking from experience. When I started keto, I wasn't tracking my foods. On April 19th, I decided that I was doing keto, and on April 20th, I made my very first low carb meal. Low carb, not keto. I didn't have a scale or any way to track my foods. So all I knew is that I needed to take rice, pasta, and potatoes and all the junk food out of my diet. But I really wasn't sure if I was reaching my 20 grams of carbs or less. By the time that I did buy a scale, I learned quickly that my weight loss, which I had had weight loss, was not due to me being in a ketogenic state. What it was due to was me dramatically dropping my carb count from around 350 down to around 150 grams of carbs per day. Nowhere close to being in a ketogenic state. The scale helped me to see how much carb was in each of the foods that I was eating. So, where were the carbs coming from? That was when I really started to understand that every source of carbohydrates matters. I was shocked to learn how often I was underestimating the amount of carbohydrate that I was eating because I was guessing at how much it was. I also learned that, and I should have known this, that the size at which you cut up something is going to greatly impact how much of it you're having. The smaller you cut your vegetables, the more you can fit in a cup. The goal is to eat 20 grams of carbs or less. We're not trying to reach the 20. That's the first point that I want to make. The less sugar you eat per day, the better, because that's what's going to ensure that you're in a ketogenic state. A ketogenic state means that my body is using fat as its main energy source. If you want to learn more about how to do keto appropriately, subscribe and ring the bell. Since 20 grams of carbs is not a lot, we can easily overeat our carbohydrates by having some fruit, rice, or oatmeal. And you'll notice that each of those foods are foods that are considered healthy. In order to successfully track your food, you're going to need a scale and some kind of app to check how much carb is in the food that you're eating. Now, I suggest using an app because it not only allows you to check the food, but it allows you to save foods that you typically eat. If you're more of a pen and paper kind of person, then I would suggest that you use our friend Google to look up the food and then write down the values that you find there. But the reason that I push using an app over using Google is because if I use an app, then I'm going to find the food, I'm going to insert the amount of grams of the food that I ate, and then the app is going to do all the calculations for me so that I know how many grams of carb was in that food. Versus if I use my friend Google, then what I have to do is look up how much grams of carbs are in a certain food. So let's say apple, it's going to tell me in 100 grams of apple, there would be this much grams of carbs. And then I have to weigh my apple and do that math to know how much grams of carbs were in the apple that I ate. It's a few extra steps, but the problem I see there is that those few extra steps might be the difference between you doing the logging properly, first of all, but also doing the logging at all in the long term. Now, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal when you're doing one apple, but imagine you're making a salad. And so I have this 167 gram zucchini that I'm going to put in my salad. Well, if I put that in my calculator, it's going to tell me that that's 2.7 grams of carb. However, if it was a 200 gram zucchini and I put that in my calculator, it's going to tell me that that's 3.3 grams of carb. Now, that small difference, 2.7 versus 3.3, doesn't seem like a big deal. But remember, I'm making a salad. So now I'm going to do the lettuce, and then I might do some peppers, and then I might do some, and do you see where for each of these things, I'm going to have to do math on paper to figure it out? And I really think that it's just so much simpler to put the amount of zucchini into the app and get an answer, especially when you consider that I have 20 grams of carbs to use for the entire day. Again, 2.7 versus 3.3, that gram difference there, it matters. Now, when it comes to the actual tracker that you're going to use, so the app, I encourage you to choose an app that allows you to input the number of carbohydrates you're trying to limit yourself to every day. And the reason for this is that carbohydrates is the thing you're trying to track. Sure, The app is going to let you track fat, it's going to let you track protein. And eventually, those numbers might become interesting for fine tuning your diet. But at the beginning, the most important thing for you to make sure is that you never go past 20 grams of carbs. Now, if the app that you're using is asking you to put in percentages, which many apps do, there's two things I want you to do. I want you to find out how much protein your body needs per day. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to, for our height, and being female, in my case, find out what my weight range is. And there's usually about a 30-pound range there. Then I'm going to aim for the number right in the middle. The reason that I'm asking you to find out the weight that you want to be, so for your height, what should your good weight be, is because you're trying to have enough protein to build and fuel and move your body from now through the rest of your life. And protein is not about weight loss. Protein is about building and repairing your body. So we want to eat the amount we're supposed to eat, whether we're in a weight loss trajectory or we're in a maintenance trajectory. We should always be eating the right amount of protein. So for example, if you were a 5'5" tall woman, then your ideal weight would be somewhere between 114 and 144. So if we go right in the middle, that's 129. And then we would say, okay, if I was a sedentary 5'5" woman, then I would have 0.36 grams of protein for every pound on me. If I was a very active woman, then I would have 0.64 grams of protein for every pound on me. So with those calculations, I should be eating somewhere between 47 and 83 grams of protein every day. We need to remember, that's how much protein. I'm going to eat more meat to get that amount of protein out of the meat. So in my calculator now I have two numbers. I have my carb count, which is 20, and I have my protein amount, which is 83 grams. And I'm going for the highest number because remember, eventually I want to be in that position where I'm able to be active and do all the activities I want. I also want to give my body all the necessary building blocks to repair and restore me in the most efficient manner. So when I input my protein, and it's going to give me a percentage, but I want to try to aim at that 83 to see it say 83 in the gram part. And then I'm going to put in my carb, and I want to see it say 20 in the carb part. And then it's going to tell me how much fat I have left over. And all of this is going to be based on a calorie count. The reason that I want you to find these settings in the app and customize them is not because I want you to aim at a caloric deficit. In fact, throughout this entire process, the only number that I want you to focus on is the carb number. We fill out these other numbers because that's usually the only way these apps will let you set the carbohydrate to 20. We want it to be 20 grams max. So by setting it to 20, you're going to be able to verify that you're eating a healthy ketogenic diet because you can look and see that you did not go over 20 grams of carbohydrates in a day. Now, it is important for you to eat enough protein so that your body will have the resources it needs to heal you. The truth is, because we've been eating such high carb for so long, we've done metabolic damage to our bodies. And now that we're not overloading on carbohydrates, it gives our body the opportunity to get in there and solve these health problems that are lying in wait and definitely going to impact you at some point in time. In order to eat enough protein and fat, because we need those fatty acids also to heal, so that your body has what it needs to build and repair, I'm encouraging you to listen to your body. And what that means is, I want you to take your time when you're eating so that your body can let you know when it has had enough of, so you're eating to satiation. Satiation means that I'm eating until I'm no longer hungry, not until I'm full. We are really used to eating until we're full. And then we turn around on top of being full and adding some kind of dessert that our body didn't need. You'll be surprised how many granola bars, chocolate bars, cookies, ice cream that I ate after a meal that I walked away from saying, oh my God, I'm full, but still somehow found space for dessert. When you eat to satiation, you're actually allowing your body to get the protein and essential fatty acids it needs from the foods you're eating without overloading it, because we need to keep in mind, if we overeat, whether we overeat on carbs, fat, or protein, our body will store it away as fat. If your food tracker is only focused on percentage and it's not allowing you to see the grams of carb, I encourage you to change the food tracker, use something else. You may have days where you have a higher caloric meal, and if your food tracker only shows you percentages, you will overeat your carbohydrate. Because if I eat 1,600 calories in my day, 5% of that is 20 grams of carbs. But if I eat 1,700 calories in my day, 5% of that is 21.25 grams of carbs. And believe it or not, that 1.25 grams of carbs matters. Anytime you push your body beyond the 20 grams of carbs, it matters. Because it's not healthy for you to have sugar floating around in your blood. This is what causes diabetes. Now that you have your app set up, you weigh and track your food. That means you weigh the serving of vegetables, you weigh the serving of meat, you weigh the serving of yogurt, or any other food that you eat. And yes, I'm asking you to weigh and track everything that you eat. And many people are frustrated by this idea that they will have to track their food, everything they eat, for the foreseeable future. What I want you to think about is the frustration of tracking versus the frustration of not meeting your health and weight goals. The frustration of continuing to chase sugar, so carbohydrates. The frustration of not knowing why it is that I'm eating a healthy ketogenic diet and yet I'm not getting the results that everybody else seems to say that they get. Spoiler, it's because you're not actually eating keto. These practices help you to really understand where the carbohydrates are coming from and allow you to make better choices about the foods you're eating, so the meals you're preparing, so that you can accomplish your goal of getting into a ketogenic state. Check out this video right here. That's going to help you to understand why you might do net carb versus total carb. There are links in the description if you'd like to know about ways you can help support the channel. Wellness Warrior, I'm always so happy that you come back, and if you're new, subscribe and ring the bell so that you can get on the road to health. I love making these videos for you, and I can't wait to talk to you again next week.